the first parcel, which is about the Dudley Brook Howard parcel, right? We're going to take about 20 minutes after she does a little bit of the background to really engage and sort of share our input. And we're also going to, at that point, hear from Representative Liz Miranda, who's going to give us an update about that as well. So, Chris, can I hand it over to you?
You can. Thank you, Marcos. I really appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. I really do miss. Yes.
Sorry, I just want to do another announcement about the interpretation.
Sure.
One last one. Hola, si alguien necesita interpretación, por favor vaya a su pantalla y hay un mapa mundi, una figura mapa mundi en su screen, en la pantalla. Ahí puede seleccionar interpretación. Y si tienen un teléfono, hay 3 dots en la parte superior derecha. Ahí está la opción para aceptar interpretación. Si alguien la necesita, puede dejarme saber a mí. Gracias.
Gracias, René. Seguimos con Christine.
Thank you. Renee, would you like me to share my screen, or do you want to pull up the presentation? Okay, oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Again, my name is Christine O'Keefe. I'm the Acting Assistant Director for Development and Finance at the Department of Neighborhood Development. As I was starting to say earlier, I really miss being on Dudley Street at our typical SDC meetings. And if we were there, I envisioned dots, I envisioned paper up on the wall, and would really be pulling something together. But this will have to do for now. But well, soon enough, hopefully we'll all be back together. I just wanted to talk to you tonight about, it's really 5 parcels of land that the city owns in the Dudley Street area. And so just want to kind of, like Marco said, we want to capture input tonight. You know, we're not looking for firm decisions. This is a discussion that we want to have. And the Dudley Burrell parcels, which we'll talk about secondly, we did have some developers propose to that, but I just want to make sure that if there are developers that are on tonight's meeting, that this meeting tonight is really to hear from the community, to get your feedback on what is to be to happen on these sites. So Renee, feel free to move the slides forward. For the agenda for tonight, it's really not going to be much of me talking. I'll try and keep it very low. I'm really here to hear what you have to say, what you think. So I just want to do a quick history on the sites, but I am going to give you a little bit of an update as to who D&D is. We'll go into the review of the parcels, and then we'll just talk about discussion and development objectives, which is going to be led by DS&I tonight. So next slide, Renee, please. The Department of Neighborhood Development has, I believe it's 7 different departments within it, so divisions within us. And I just wanted to quickly tell you about who we are. We are the city's planning agency for housing. Our focus is basically all on housing. We're here to create affordable housing, preserve affordable housing. The division I work in is the first division, which is the Neighborhood Housing Development Division. And our focus is on creating affordable housing on either city-owned land, or maybe a developer has acquired a parcel of land or a building and they're seeking our funding to create affordable housing. And then we also work to preserve affordable housing. So those are for developments that have either maybe an existing Section 8 contract, or they already have an affordable housing restriction. We're responsible for making sure that we can extend those. We don't want to lose that affordable housing. So we work with developers to figure out ways to preserve that housing. We also have the Office of Supportive Housing. They work with the homeless folks. They work with trying to find vouchers and services and continue to make sure that our most vulnerable population continues to remain served. We have the Real Estate Management and Sales Division, and they basically take care of the city-owned lots and the city-owned buildings that we have in the area to make sure they're in good shape. Hopefully you guys will tell me these lots are in pretty good shape. We have the Boston Home Center, and their focus is on 2 parts. First, they help homeowners, first-time home buyers acquire homes. Most of the homes that the city does, we do through a lottery, and our Boston Home Center markets the units. So they search for first-time home buyers through a lottery process, income certify, help with down payment assistance. And then the other half of the division works on homeowners that already own their home, and they give loans in order to help maybe repair roofs, porches, heating systems. So they help with that stuff. Their main focus is on home ownership. We have a housing innovation lab, which works with, they work with us to come up with creative ideas in order to continue to move housing forward. They talk to folks within the city, outside of the city, different states, just to try and continue to get some creative ideas on how we can bring more housing to the city. We have our Office of Stability, which really, they're a very, very busy group, unfortunately, but they are really working to make sure that folks are not being displaced, they're not being evicted. So they pull up their boots and the bootstraps, and they're very, very busy. The goal is we do not want to see anyone displaced at all. So they work with tenants to make sure that they understand their rights. And then we have our policy development and research divisions, which make sure that, we're doing everything within the compliance of whether it's city policies, the federal policies, and also doing research to make sure that, we continue to stay up to date and see how other programs are working. Renee, feel free to switch to the next slide. So the reason we're here tonight is that there are 3 parcels of land at the corner of Dudley and Burrell, right next to Ideal Sub Shop. Those are 3 parcels of land, and then we have 2 parcels of land, and it's at the corner of Dudley Brook. But what a lot of people don't know is there's actually a little tucked in parcel you'll see at the back of 5 Howard Place. So together there is approximately 25,000 square feet of vacant city-owned land right here on Dudley Street. So what we thought tonight, working with DS&I, would be a great idea, as opposed to doing things one at a time, let's bring them together. Let's talk about it. Let's try and envision how we want to see Dudley Street built out with these remaining city-owned parcels. And so with that said, Renee, you can switch to the next slide. The first ones we're going to talk about are 581 Dudley Street and 5 Howard Place. You folks know these parcels probably way better than I do. I know they have been in the city's inventory for decades, but unfortunately they were given to us in a trust, and it didn't allow us to build on them for, I'm not sure exactly when it expired, but it probably was in the last 10 years. And when I say we, I mean D&D, DS&I, the community, all of us have come together starting back in 2016 and discussed what we thought was a really good use for this parcel and how to move it forward. Together, it's about 15,000 square feet. And we talked about what's the best use. And at that time, folks had said they would love to see some parking on the site. They would like to see parking in order to take some congestion off of Dudley Street. There was concern about the cars getting by with the buses, with the school buses. There was concern from the commercial folks that they would love to see some parking on the site as well, so that folks could get better access to the services that they were providing. And I also received, I should say, many petitions from folks, some elected officials that provided us some documentation that supported us moving forward with parking on this site. And we hit a little roadblock, and the thing that always ends up is money. Who is going to build the parking lot? Who's going to own the parking lot? Who's going to maintain the parking lot? And there was some concerns going back and forth about, should it be a municipal parking lot? Should it be owned by the community? Who should really take control of the parking lot on the site? So that's probably brings us to like 2017, 2018. During this time, what we did is basically been looking for ways to move forward on it. And, with COVID, we've lost some time here. And we were just thinking, is it a better time? Working with Miranda, working with DSNI, we thought we need to bring this back and have another vision and process on this. And on this aerial photo, you'll see starting at the top, it's Brook Ave and Dudley. It is about 11,000 square feet. And right between the trees there's like a little archway, and it cuts through right onto 5 Howard Place. So you can enter the site through either Dudley Brook or on Howard Place. We've looked at Howard Place at one point as a potential housing site. We heard very clearly from the community that folks didn't think it was a good housing site just because Howard Place is a very, very small street. There was a real concern about putting another house down there. If there was a fire or something like that, it wouldn't be a smart use. There was a real concern about that. So that's, before we jump into discussion, I did want to add, I know there are some folks on here from the abutting parcel at 5 Howard Place. Some of you from SDC may remember that the group came to SDC and asked for either the entire parcel or a sliver of the parcel, because when they acquired the building, the seller led them to believe that they owned a good portion of that parcel and it was a great for their parking. And unfortunately, after they found out that, there was a little defect there and they in fact did not own that parcel. So I want to put that on the table. I want to continue to remind folks that they had asked if we could figure something out on how we move forward on that. So Renee, do you want to open it up for discussion?
Yeah, so I think we're going to do that. And so again, I think that we're looking for folks to, to comment either on sort of the previous ideas, new ideas, and hopefully again, share sort of the thought behind sort of your suggestions or your questions, right? I think it's important for people to know where folks are coming from when they're sharing their opinions. So I know that Marjorie had her hand up, and then Rep Miranda, and then Amanda just put her hand up. So why don't we start with Marjorie? And, Marjorie, are you going to unmute yourself? Otherwise, let's.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, great.
Oh, okay. I was wondering, when it comes to priority, shouldn't the people in the community have priority to purchase or have say-so in the land first? Whether it be whatever choices that are to be made with the land. I mean, we live in the community here, and I was born and raised here. I didn't just come here 20, 30 years ago. I was born here.
Yeah. Great question.
And because, and the reason I'm saying this, I don't mean to be insulting to developers, but they're going all through the neighborhood trying to purchase up all the small properties, different folks, including my house, all the houses, all the homes through here. And then what happens is the tenants get misplaced or displaced, whichever you want to call it. They have to move quick. They can't have their Section 8 is thrown out and they're evicted and they have to run fast, or they're promised, developers will promise them that they're going to renovate the property and they can come back, and that's never a fact. So they really are misleading the people who live in the community.
Thank you, Marjorie, for that. And I do want to say, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we want to make sure that we have these conversations here and as many, neighbors participate, right? Because I think that, yeah, the community needs to have that first voice. Rep Miranda, you're on.
Good evening, everyone, and sorry that I've been hopping on and off. I'm doing 4 things at once, but great to see all of you at this well-attended meeting. I just want to share 3 or 4 points that I think are incredibly important. And Marjorie, you are absolutely on it. About 2 years ago, right when COVID-19 hit, many residents reached out to my office complaining about people not practicing social distancing, lots of illegal activity happening on the site. There was actually a shooting where a mother, drive-by shooting where a mother was hit in the shoulder, I believe, driving by. And it's been the point of contention for a very long time. It is a city-owned lot. And so we convened a couple people. I reached out to DND, who's here this evening, to have a couple conversations about that. The community would really need to re-envision what we do with this lot, because in its current condition, it is not only a safety risk, it is a nuisance, and we want to make sure that we reclaim our spaces. And I'm not talking about the back part, I'm specifically talking about the front part, because I actually didn't know that the back part existed until I did a walkthrough about 2 months ago with the city, that it could be utilized for something beautiful designed by the community. And so really what we're hoping to do also tonight is get feedback from residents, to have a future meeting with more residents who live right in that vicinity of that lot, both the Howard Place, but also the Dudley Street residents in Brook Ave. We've heard from numerous people, and I know some of them are on this call today, and actually Miss Hilda is listening in, who was one of the people that called my office numerous times to discuss this. And so I'm really hoping that we work with the city again to say, I don't know if parking is what people want, but I know that's not what I want. I think it could be a beautiful community arts gathering place for the residents of this area, and we could keep it safe, and we could keep it well maintained, because as we've been getting calls, we've also noticed that the lot wasn't really kept up. And so the city's committed again to ensure that until someone takes over this lot, a community agency or residents, that they're going to keep it well maintained. And so I just wanted to share that history and share that I'm committed in my office to ensure that residents play the priority role in designing the future for both of these parcels that are interconnected. So thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Amanda, you were next.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amanda, and I'm a long-term resident of Roxbury. And I just wanted to point out that Marjorie raises a really good idea in terms of long-term residents in the community to own a piece of the property, or at least a stake or equity in that specific parcel, instead of having outside developers come in and do what they please with the property and then displacing community members. To your point, Rep. Miranda, I just, for someone that lives within walking distance of that vacant lot, to your point, it is a nuisance. I'd love to see something else happen with that specific lot. Perhaps, in the interim, we can think of different ways to utilize that space, whether it's like weekend, yard sales, or a space where we can hold events for the moment until we figure out exactly what we're going to do with it. But I really love the idea of it being, as a community member and also a resident, to own a piece of that land. There's a really interesting, if anyone's out, drop the link in the chat here. There's actually a really cool startup out of California called Picasso, where you could essentially, they basically take a property or a piece of land or a parcel, and they sort of break it up so that there's multiple owners for that specific piece of land. I know plenty of people who are young professionals who obviously can't afford anything within the Boston market right now. And I think it's just a great way for, you know, the neighbors here and then also the young professionals to own some form of equity and kind of build their wealth that way, but also have ties with the community. Because at the end of the day, these people, you know, if they decide to leave, great, they can sell their portion of it, but at least they'll have some form of ties with the neighborhood that they live in.
Thank you, Amanda. Ilana, and before Ilana, you speak, I just wanted to make sure, like, folks, if you think that you want to comment or share questions, make sure you use the raise hand option, right, to get yourself in queue.
Michael, I'm sorry, I don't know where the race. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Great. I'll add you, Maribel, if you're raising your hand. Ilana, go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name's Alona Perkins. I live right here on Brook Avenue, number 116. So I'm directly across from the park here, or we call it the park, the parcel of land at the end of the street. Yeah. I've been here for 11 years. I own and rent part of my property. My daughter's 7 years old. She goes to school at the Masons, so we're definitely part of the community here. I was happy to see this meeting so that I could kind of put in my 2 cents about what's been happening here at the end of the street. Previous to COVID, I just kind of want to let some people know, like, for the folks that live here on this street, that area, that open space, that park, we were cleaning it ourselves. We were taking care of it ourselves. We would go out there on a Saturday, bring out the little grill. Somebody would bring this food, somebody would bring that food. We'd have a nice time with our children. You know, and it was a thing we were doing every week, or, you know, every other week, where people were getting together, people were enjoying the open space out there. Once COVID hit, of course, we couldn't do so much of that. And then, of course, this new faction of people doing the wrong thing on the end of our street has become the bane of our existence. We've stopped going out there because, you know, it was nice to have open space, but we're afraid. People have been shooting, people have been selling drugs just out there in the open. They don't care if we see them. They don't care if I'm walking by with my 7-year-old daughter. They do not care about any of that. So I'm glad that the city has decided to do something with this property. I'm hoping it's not housing. I'm hoping it is something that is open space, something that the community still can use, that we could still someday resurrect our little Saturday afternoon barbecue with, you know, more people on the street. It's nice to have community. It's nice to be able to see your neighbors. And it's nice to have the space to do it in. So that would be my vote. Hopefully it could be public space that we can still use as a community here in Brook Avenue.
Thank you, Ilana. I know Peter Jones had his hand up. So Peter, if you can unmute and share your thoughts.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. We are good to see everybody. Thanks for everybody taking the time and hearing everybody out. I think this is great. So we own right next to the 5 Howard Place lot, right on that side of the street. And what Chris was referring to earlier is I don't even know how long ago that was now, pre-COVID. So I guess a year and a half ago, maybe a little longer. But yeah, that lot has been, you know, the maintenance and, you know, how it looks is one thing, but that's like incredibly minor compared to what that lot, unfortunately, at least when we were there, we actually moved and we rent it out now. But you know, our tenant has 3 young children, and, you know, that lot was being just like previous. Sorry, I'm in the car, so I wasn't catching everybody's name, but the previous individual had mentioned, you know, things happening over there now that in broad daylight, needles, no regard for anybody or anything. It's just like you couldn't go outside. I mean, we had an infant / toddler at the time, and I mean, we couldn't even go outside in front of our own house. Honestly, it was just crazy. So the second piece of this is that we had proposed to the group here at a meeting in person at the DSNI that we had proposed that, you know, we would at least like the opportunity to purchase the lot, and then had shown kind of what our plan was, which, while it would have been private, was really just going to be kind of like a green space type of thing. So in that capacity, huge fan of what everyone was throwing out here for options in terms of the utilization of that space. It could be much more well kept, utilized by the neighborhood, and give everybody an opportunity to use what could be really nice space, you know, on the little dead end area, and it'd be great. So they're supportive of all that. The one thing that I guess unfortunately has come up is that one of the reasons we wanted to purchase that lot, or a portion of it, a sliver as Chris worded it, was to just leave our driveway abuts that lot, if you could even call it a driveway. It looks more like a walking path because it's so thin. But we wanted to extend our fence out and just add a few feet of width to our driveway, because we have 3 deeded spots, but in reality, I mean, if you have to like airlift 3 cars in there to get them parked in the back, there's no way you can actually drive 3 cars and then park them, because you have to, the cars would have to be turned 90 degrees to park in the deeded spots, and there's just no possible way that's, it's just not physically possible to do that. So anyhow, now it has come up that, I guess the developer wasn't the most stand-up of individuals, unfortunately, which I guess is a recurring theme in the area. But our driveway actually encroaches a bit into the 4,300 square foot lot of 5 Howard Place, and obviously, first of all, our tenants use the lot, the space and the driveway, and it's already to like our car was not big, like a Jeep Grand Cherokee, but I would have to fold the mirrors and just to get the car in and out of there without hitting the house. So it's not like we have this huge, expansive driveway that has overlap, and we never knew from the get-go that there's a portion of it. It just recently came up when the land was surveyed by the city, and so what I would hope everyone would understand is, because certainly it would impact the value, it would impact our tenant who depends on parking in the car to bring her 3 kids around to school and sports and all those sorts of things. So point being, we would like to propose that if we could just leave our driveway where it is without having the new space impact it, hopefully people would be in favor of that as well. And in fact, Chris, back when we did propose to buy it, the neighborhood in the community of you all folks, some of you might have been there at the time and voted, everybody in a show of hands approved our being, basically first right of refusal to purchase either the whole lot or a portion of the lot, and then we were just waiting for the city to appraise it and get back to us with whatever the price would have been, and move forward that way. So that obviously, that kind of all got, I guess, slipped through the cracks with COVID and all the craziness. But without being any more long-winded, I just wanted to hope that we could keep the driveway that we do have, because it's critical to the building and the folks that live within it and their children, for us to be able to just keep that there. So thanks. That's all I have.
Thank you, Peter, for your comments. David raised his hand. And I'm gonna ask folks if we could be slightly briefer, more brief, just because we ran over with the first item, and so now we're playing catch up. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, just a quick question. I'm noticing that the newer folks that are moving into the neighborhood, they kind of have a vision of the neighborhood as what they would like to see, which may not coincide with what we're talking about. Also, some of the developers that I have a relationship with, not a relationship, but I have been speaking with them, and I've mentioned this before. I mean, their vision is for our neighborhood to be, and they've said it, quote unquote, young hipsters, and really building housing for them and not necessarily families, whether it's families or not, I don't know. But their vision is different than what we're talking about. And I don't know whether or not, is there a vision of what we would like to see? I know we're talking about open space, but do we have anything that that is concrete that we can present or to bounce off, because their visions are different than what we're talking about now.
Thank you, David. I mean, I think I've heard a number of like very good ideas and sort of principles to keep in mind and guide that sort of visioning work. You know,
I
but
recorded it so you can hear it later.
I want to make sure that if other folks have any comments, that we give them the time now to speak. And is that Josefina? You raised your hand? Oh no, that's me. Okay.
I think Ilana. No.
Ilana, I mean, Marjorie, you still have your hand up, or did you put it up again?
Yes. Hello, are you there?
Yep.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Oh, good. See, that's the problem. People are coming from other places, throwing poor folks out. They know that people, no matter the way it is now, and it's sad because you can have 99 degrees from college, university, or whatever, and you're still not making livable wages unless you take every paycheck and someone else's to pay your rent, never mind purchase a property. So we in this community need to pull together. I don't care if 10, 20 people have to get their money together and purchase as group. Why always is developers, why are developers allowed preference over poor folks in the community? And all that happens is shuffling around. Poor folks are thrown out because of one reason or another. And majority of the time, it's because economically, they're never able to reach livable wages. And when I say livable wages, I'm talking about market rate. I'm not talking about low income housing, welfare, none of that. I'm talking jobs are not paying people market rate rents. So more people, this community needs to stop allowing developers come through, do what they want, and then later on, everyone is just sad, hurt, single parents, children, etc., thrown out into God knows whatever part of Massachusetts that I was born and raised here. Half of the places I don't even recognize the names. But what I'm still saying, a positive effort should come out of this, where everyone pull together and purchase it, not one individual, and then later on they decide to just do something for themselves and ignore the other folks. No, that's not living. Make it a positive outcome for the people in the community. And
thank you, Marjorie.
Oh, I wanted to also ask, what is the purchase price, please?
Chris, you want to speak to that?
Right now, we do not have a purchase price because we want to decide what the best use is for the parcel. So what I'm hearing here is we want something for the community. So I think that's what we need to understand, but there is no purchase price. There is no plan right now. We're just here tonight to understand what the community would like to see happen on this parcel.
Okay, well, please make it a locked situation where the poor economically, such as myself, house poor and all that other negative stuff, where people like us are not excluded. Some of us can go, I could retire, but God knows with the prices going up and the interest rates will go up, you can't even retire anymore. I never heard of this, but this is reality. So let's make this come a positive outcome for the community members who want to be a part of it. And purchasing it together, I see no harm in that. I see a good coming out of it.
Thank you, Marjorie. Thank you all those that sort of share their sort of perspectives on this and their experiences with the lot directly. I mean, I think that that's really important to understand, again, how people have experienced it And you know, I appreciate some of the proposals, like the idea of sort of privately owned public spaces, right? Because I think that in our community, you know, we find ourselves oftentimes left with things, and you don't really know who's in charge of maintaining order or maintaining the space. And so, I mean, those are critical today. You know, I mean, I got to experience that group that was hanging out there, and you know, tent and flag and everything. It was just crazy. Like, we want to wrap this up, and so
Can I
again,
just say a few things?
oh,
Marjorie,
sure, Maribel.
because Marjorie, I appreciated that you talked, but you talked a couple of times already. So it's my time because I wrote a few things. I do want to say I know that area very well. I do have a friend who lives right next to it, and she's one of them who has called the community quite often. I mean, the city, because of concerns of people using drugs there, especially males, driving the, I don't know what you call it, those mopeds or mini motorcycles. We have had on and off music that it's extremely loud, that I can hear it from where I live on Magnolia Street. Drinking alcohol, fireworks before and after holidays, with no police response. Never mind the shootings, okay? Okay, I think the open space is a great idea. Listen, I lived in the suburbs, but I've been here in Boston for over 20 years now. We have plenty of open spaces right around here already, okay? And if people have not walked around, which I heard people have already walked around or driven around, I myself, just yesterday, I was right. I always go to Mr. DePina, the tailor. He is been complaining a lot about the open spaces. DSNI, I admire you, and it was a great intention of yours to build Dudley Commons. But right now, those places that are open space have become a great place for the drug addicts or the drug users, okay? Yesterday, I was driving to Home Depot, right, open 2 o'clock, right there, 3 people, right next to the Old Navy, next to Home Depot, 3 people shooting heroin, fentanyl, whatever, open space. I'm sorry, in a world like Weston, Wellesley, Brookline, it would be great to have open space. Right now, we can't have it because Melina Cass is no longer the 1 mile methadone. That has become more than a mile. It has become tense. I hate to say to you right now, but it looks, I have traveled to multiple third world countries, and it's looking worse than a third world country right now. And they're moving into Dudley Street in our area.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that's my concern about having open space, because this is not gonna get better. I'm a social worker. I am reading it. This is gonna get worse. It's not gonna get better with or without COVID. It's here in the United States and it's here to stay. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, about Christine, you correct me, maybe 6, 7 years ago, we had a meeting with D&D about I think it was about 16 vacant lots, and they were supposed to be built affordable housing. 2, to my recollection, were supposed to be open spaces. As far as I know, I haven't seen the open spaces. I'm telling you, I think I'm gonna die by the day that those open spaces are gonna be built. And I have to say, I have even seen the affordable housing that we were told that they were gonna be built with great intention. One area was gonna be affordable housing, and the owners were gonna be able to rent the other side. However, that hasn't been seen. And I have to say, many of the people who were at the meeting are very frustrated, and they feel like there should be a reconsideration because perhaps the city doesn't have the money. And there should be another meeting to discuss that and to discuss those 2 open spaces. So that's another issue that I have about that. In regards to that space on Brook Avenue, Howard Place, given the circumstances that's going on in Boston, as well as other places in the United States, whether you like it or not, I have to say it would be great to build housing, at the top, and at the bottom, do some stores. What kind of stores do we need? I have to say that I see too many dogs in this neighborhood that are not well kept. People don't know how to take care of the dogs. They don't even put a leash on the dogs. So why is it that we don't have in this neighborhood a dog grooming place or a cat grooming place? It's about time that we teach our community how to take care of our animals. We got to move on.
Thank you,
Cannot
Maribel.
keep our heads
I'm gonna
down.
ask you to wrap up.
But that's one of the things, one of the ideas that I have. We can keep the housing upstairs and downstairs, have something that we need to have that is new in our community. You talked about our families that have been here. I hate to tell you, I still talk to people who are from this community, who are young, who went to college, and they cannot live here. They may not want families, but they are also entitled to come back to the community and have a studio or have a 1-bedroom. And we should welcome them to this community where they were raised and stay in this community. We can do that. It's okay if they don't want families, but we should have housing for those people too. Okay, not everybody wants to have a family. So we should have housing for those people, and let's not forget the artists that we kicked out.
Thank you for your comments, Maribel. I know that people have raised their hands, and I hope, again, I'm gonna ask folks, as we talked about our ground rules, like let's agree to disagree. So, you know, this is not the time to sort of rebut and what have you, but if you have another new idea, I'm gonna ask you quickly to share another great idea for this parcel. Amanda, do you wanna?
Yeah, so there's two things. One, I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel in terms of what we could potentially do with that area. For me at least, I'd love to see what other cities are doing, especially other, heavily dense populated cities like Philly, New York City, in different areas of this country, and see what they're doing with a lot of these vacant lots, because I'm sure they're going through the same, have gone through the same issues and struggles that we're currently going through. So one thing that I'd like to get out of this meeting, because I always feel like we're sort of talking about like all these great ideas, but nothing's ever put into action. Sort of what is the short-term plan that we have for that space right now to address some of the issues that the residents are currently having? And then what are some long-term sort of goals or things that we need to, that we'd like to see happen in that specific area? But for the time being, we need to figure something out and address the issues that the neighborhood is currently having. And while we're doing that, we can research and figure out what is the best use of that lot, and then just have like a timeline for us to sort of achieve those goals until we put milestones in place and hold all the agencies that are on this call accountable to make sure that we're actually hitting those milestones. We're just going to continue to talk in circles. Again, I truly believe that other cities have gone through the same thing. Other parts of the country has gone through the same thing that we're currently going through. Again, look at Philly, look at New York, look at Chicago, and really study what they've done. I mean, it's going to take some research and some Googling to really figure it out, but the answer is there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let's just—
Thank you. I heard you loud and clear, Amanda. And I really appreciate also the short-term solutions, right? Which are minimally making it safe, maintaining it, right? Because I think until we can see like that place clean and maintained, people are going to sort of react and think about not be able to explore the full possibilities. So thank you for that comment. Olive, do you want to share something real quickly? Another great idea. If you do, please.
Yeah, I like Amanda's suggestion. the one that just came on the phone. But a couple years ago, prior to the pandemic, we had several meetings about all the open lots in Dorchester, Roxbury area. And they were all slated for low, medium income homes because there's a housing shortage. Is this no longer on the table for this open space? Is that why we're having this discussion now?
Well, you just put it on the table, right? I mean, I think this is sort of like an opportunity to share your support for a particular use. Chris, you wanna say something?
Yeah, I just want to jump in quickly. I know Maribel had mentioned it, and I'm not sure if the other folks is raising the same question. We did have a community process where we talked about the parcels along Magnolia, Ceylon, Robin Hood, I think it was. And unfortunately, they were all moving forward really well, but COVID put a stop to that. But with that, I'm going to say the good news is that Magnolia Woodford, Minnie, correct me if I get the wrong site, Magnolia Woodford is moving forward. Both sites are moving forward. But what I'm saying is you're going to start seeing construction happen on Magnolia soon. Unfortunately, prices have come in so much higher. The contractor walked away. But with all that said, all the little hiccups we've had in the past year and a half, we are moving forward. We are moving close to a closing on that project. So we should see construction starting on Magnolia Street. Minnie, correct me if I'm wrong, probably end of October, early November. So that is happening, but unfortunately COVID has stopped it. As for the open spaces, those were transferred, I believe, at the end of 2019 under the land trust. So again, COVID unfortunately put a slowdown to that, but you will see progress happening on those soon. So delayed, unfortunately, but progress is happening.
So I know there's more hands, and I'm going to ask folks to please put your comments in the chat. Rene has been holding his hand up. So Rene, do you want to unmute?
Sure. Just an update because people were saying what we could do in the, like the short term in these community meetings, or, like a few people came from the city, from Representative Liz Miranda's office. We were discussing what can be done in the short term. I think someone from the city, I think Chris can help me here, who was the team in charge, but they're taking down the white fence. I think they're gonna put the other chain link fence that make the site more secure. I don't know if anyone from the city that is doing that work. Yesterday or a few days ago, Minnie and I were flyering the community, and we saw that the new posts are there on cement. So I think they're making some progress, but I don't know the exact timeline for finalizing that. Christine, do you know?
I don't know. I know the work has started, but I can get you an exact timeline. So you will start seeing the fence going up shortly, and you should see some of the shrubs and stuff that were there being taken down. So the site is being secured until we figure out what we want to do for the best use of it. But I think taking down that white picket fence is certainly going to help with the look of the site as well. So I'll get you a better timeline on that, though.
Great. Thank you all. David?
Yeah, just really quickly, I just want to piggyback on what Amanda was saying. One of the things is what is affordable. I know that the houses on my street now are going for $840 something thousand. Okay, so I mean that's almost $1 million. So all the houses that they've been building. So I don't necessarily know. I know we're talking about poor or moderate. I don't know who can afford that. Well, obviously we do because people have moved in. But what I do want to say is that I own a bakery in South Boston. It's Sweet Tooth Boston, and we get reduced rent from the South Boston Neighborhood Association, and that enables us to provide what it is that we do to the neighborhood. We employ people. We are part of the community. Obviously, when somebody needs a school bus or something, or they need some sort of donation, these sole proprietor businesses are helping the community. So part of what I want to say is, because I do this in South Boston, I would love the opportunity to be able to provide that service in my own neighborhood, and in some sort of place that I could afford to not only provide, you know, what I do for families, because I'm sure people know, if you heard of us, is that a lot of the people from our community go to South Boston. I would love to be able to do it here. But so that's just an idea. And what I'm saying is, what Amanda was doing is that what other people are doing, there are people who are doing it right here now, not just in Philly or whatever. I'm just doing what she's suggesting in South Boston. I would love to do it here. I employ people. I give back to the community. I serve on boards. I do this. So I'm just putting that out there.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. And I think that's a really good point. Just, I mean, I know we, prior to COVID, during our meetings, we kept bringing up just the need for affordable commercial space, right? I mean, because it's just like the, you know, housing prices, commercial space for small businesses is just going crazy. So thank you all. I know that Renee was wanting to do the straw poll for the in-person meeting. And I know Minnie reminded us that we have a sign-in sheet. Their link is in the chat. So please make sure that you sign in. Renee, you want to do that now? And then we'll.
Sure. This is one of the idea came up in the meeting that we have on site to have online discussion, but also on-site discussion and bring more ideas. So in conversation with Christine, we're trying to figure out a day that worked for everyone. We thought about October 16 and 25th. Minnie, are you ready for the straw poll? This is just to have an idea how you feel about those 2 dates, to have an in-person on-site meeting.
Yes.
And are we supposed to pick both if we want, like both, or one?
You know, I think you might have to choose one. So I guess go with a preference if you can do both. And if anyone's having trouble with this, please, you can just say your preference in the chat or out loud.
Okay. So it looks like 16.
I have a question.
Yep.
Why are we having a meeting on Saturday?
Julia, hi. We are, you know, tonight's a weeknight. We're doing it on Zoom. So we're just trying to offer different options to reach as many folks as possible. So daytime on the weekend, hoping to get whoever couldn't be here today.
At the same time, 6 o'clock?
It would be daytime. We do it, we don't have the time set, but probably sometime midday.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, that's a good, maybe half of the folks who are not staff or city or other agencies. Thank you.
Great, thank you all. So, you know, we have to quickly pivot and move on to the next property.